Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the number one home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard, and we have a jammed-packed show for you guys. The Ducks are on a tear. They have won 6 of their last 7 games, so we're going to talk about some of the recent action. Some good things, some bad things and questionable things, but we'll break all that down. Lots of trade rumor news going on with the Ducks as well, and you know the trade deadline is coming up here pretty quickly in the beginning of March, so we're getting there pretty close. A little bit of league news, not too much to cover there, but plenty of stuff to dive into. A lot to discuss on the show. Tons of fan questions. You guys hitting us up a lot about trade rumors. There's been a bunch of them posted out there, and we'll go over all those and whatnot. And if I do sound a little bit sick, unfortunately I have been. So I haven't been living up to our new name. If you checked out our YouTube channel, we had Brian Hansen gave us a new name of DucksNPucks. That was the name that he put on our last show on YouTube, but I've actually been laying low this week. I missed the game against Dallas, which Eddie went to that one. I stayed home and watched that. I also was supposed to go to Ducks and Tucks, but I was sick as well. So I've been kind of dealing with it, and so is the team, unfortunately. But how are you doing, Eddie? And are you drinking anything?
You know what, Mike? I think I had to step up and take over for this podcast and for our page DucksNPucks, and to earn the name DucksNPucks. Since you were sick, not feeling well, so I doubled up my drinking just to make up for that, Mike. So you're welcome, and you're welcome, fans, for me having to step up and sacrificing my liver. And you know what? One of the times my little alcohol consumption made me write an ex-girlfriend, which is always bad. And I always preach in the show about ex-girlfriends and ex-players and ex-coaches. But yeah, so you're welcome, Mike, for sacrificing all that and stepping up for you while you're trying to get better. And yes, I am drinking. I am drinking a Michelob Ultra. I took a shot as you were talking. It's 10:30, and you know what? It's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's Super Bowl Sunday, so you're allowed to drink this early in the morning, right?
Yeah, it's like a national holiday, and then all the people call out sick on Monday. It's hilarious.
You know what, Mike? It's funny about that. Real quick before I forget, I called out sick last Monday after Super Bowl Sunday, but it wasn't because of Super Bowl. I'm not a football fan, really. I mean, I'll watch it when it's on, but that wasn't the reason why. I was actually moving and had to get my stuff out, so I just took that sick day, and of course everyone at work thought it was Super Bowl, and I didn't even watch Super Bowl last year. So it's how funny that you mentioned that everyone calls out sick the Monday.
That's hilarious. And yeah, we are recording before, so we won't know what the outcome is. The show is probably going to be posted after the Super Bowl, just kind of with the way our scheduling is going and then editing and everything. Today's kind of a crazy day that we're recording it. But yeah, so we're doing our thing. Like I said, been laying kind of low. Unfortunately, I haven't been feeling well this past week and whatnot. But if my voice sounds a little different, there you go. But yeah, let's talk. Yeah.
So what are you drinking, Mike? You drinking some Dayquil or something to get you through the weekend?
Yeah, I've just been having like the Mucinex, like cold and flu type stuff. Had some cough stuff too. I had a bad cough this last week. Just not really fun, man. It's been unfortunate. I've just kind of like some kind of respiratory thing with a cough and just congestion and stuff. So it's been, a lot of doses of cough syrup and cough medicine. Yeah, just not fun. I mean, if you can get drunk off cough syrup, I guess that would count, right, for the Drunks and Pucks. but that's where I've been, unfortunately. But I did, it's funny, we talk about the Ducks and how well they've been playing. Just so everybody knows that the last several home games that they've won, either Eddie and I have been at those games, so I'm sure it has nothing to do with us being there. But I was there when the Ducks beat the Penguins and the Predators, and then also the Canadians, and then Eddie was there against the Stars. So maybe some good luck charms there at home. I don't know, but I just. Unfortunately, it's been a dose of medicine for me, not actual drinks. But I do laugh at that nickname. it's pretty funny that that Brian put that on there. We've had a lot of other nicknames, but yeah, it's just funny. It's a good one.
A good T-shirt idea or a hat idea. That'd be funny.
Yeah, that's true. We haven't made one in a while.
Get
that's something that we could.
a Ducks and Pucks drunk logo. That'd be really funny.
Well, remember I had that one shirt where, what was it? I said "Quack Kills," and it was the duck with like the red eye and missing the teeth and all that stuff. Yeah, maybe we could do a spin on that one. Have a Buzz Ducks and Pucks logo.
I played on a hockey team, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard this expression, but the Mighty Drunks. It was a fun team, and yes, we did get inebriated while we were playing.
That is funny. And you know what? And that kind of takes me to one thing I will kind of mention that if you guys didn't see it, Jeff Merrick was talking to Brian Burke about the Ducks Stanley Cup run on his podcast, the Street Hockey. And it was so funny. Burke was saying how there was a bunch of Finns following Solani, you know, in the playoffs and going to all these games, and how they were drunk all the time, even at 9 a.m. And it was hilarious. And then Solani told Burke that the Finns have a black belt in partying. I just thought that was the funniest shit. So if you guys haven't heard that, go listen to it. I posted the little clip on Instagram. It's on there, and did a little collab with Jeff Merrick on there, and their little podcast. So it's funny. That's hilarious. I was just dying laughing. And when Jeff was talking to Burke about it, Burke's like, yeah, they were all drunk. It's just so funny, man. It just cracks me up. So you had the real life team, the Mighty Drunks, that was doing it, Eddie.
Oh, I know, right? You know what? I think the best NHL athlete to ever win a Stanley Cup and being drunk for like 35 days straight is Alexander Ovechkin. Oh my God, he was drunk all the time. It was just hilarious to see his whole bender for like 31 days straight. And as he should, he works hard. They're professional athletes. He's been trying to win one for all those years. He finally did. And of course, they win it in Vegas. The best spot to win your Stanley Cup in. And he was just completely wasted, and it was awesome to see. Especially when you're celebrating like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. And and he's catching up to Gretzky too. We'll have to see how that plays out this season. Not much league news that we'll have in the show, but that's another thing to look out for. But
like 20 goals now, I think he's 20 goals away or something within that range.
Yeah, he's getting closer.
I hope he does it. I hope he does it next season when he plays the Ducks at the Ducks at Honda Center. That'd be kind of cool to see that and like that history in person.
Yeah. I think he might. I'm trying to look. I know the Ducks play them later in the season, so there might be a chance. I can't remember how many games away that is, but yeah, I'm with you. If it happened at Honda Center, that'd be awesome. Yeah, let's dive into kind of the games here and how the Ducks have been doing lately. There's been a lot of talk amongst people. They've been winning games, but then people look at the analytical stats and whatnot, and people are talking about them winning and like the eye test versus the stats. And I think it's interesting going over these games. The Ducks had these couple 3-game winning streaks with the Calgary loss in between those in these last 7 games. And the Ducks, it's like a mixed bag, Eddie, watching these games, because they're doing better defensively. They held a lot of these teams to 2 or 1 goals, besides Seattle and Calgary. Those ones, they gave up 4 in each of those. So they've been playing better defensively, and they've been winning these games. They're now at a 500 record going into this break. That's kind of what you and I had talked about. I know we have fan questions about it that we'll get into, but I like what I've seen in these games. They beat the Penguins 5-1. They beat the Predators 5-2. Both those games, McTavish had 2 goals. I was at both those games. He almost got hat tricks in both of those. He had one where he hit the empty net, the post, and another one where he almost scored. Also in the Predator game, both of those he had chances. He's been on fire lately. 7 goals in the last 8 games. And then the Ducks had a really, really wild game against Seattle with 5 goals in the first period. And Seattle was actually up in that one 3-2. And then the Ducks dropped 3 goals in the second to win. So I like what I saw in that. I guess we'll kind of break this into halves, I guess. But in that first 3 games, I liked what I saw. I think that McTavish and Fabry and Gauthier are coming together and scoring. They're doing well. And yeah, I like what I saw in those first 3. I think the Seattle one was a little crazy. Not a lot of defense in that one. But I do like the fact that the Ducks, after that first period, they settled things down. And, being down 3-2, they were able to score 4 of the next 5 goals and go on to win that game. So what did you see in those first 3 games that the Ducks won, Eddie? What do you think?
Well, see, my issue with the Ducks before was they wouldn't get wins off struggling teams. They'd let these struggling teams come in there and kind of just steal wins from them. So I was glad to see them take advantage of the Penguins and Predators. We know the Penguins are having such a up and down season. They're having a ton of goaltending issues, waiving a goalie they signed a couple seasons ago, or maybe even last season, waiving him. It's good to see them kind of step up and take it to town on these teams. Show what you can do to a struggling team and kind of get that flash of greatness. Holy McTavish, yeah, he was struggling throughout the first half of the season. He just started tearing it up this last stretch of games we're talking about. I picked him up on my one of the ESPN fantasies I'm in with Jesse. So he's been paying dividends for me, as well as the Predators too. The Predators went out and kind of gambled it all and trying to kind of buy their way into a Stanley Cup by getting the top free agents that were available last season, and it kind of bit them in the ass. And now they're just kind of riding the bottom and it seems like it's nothing they do, nothing they change. It's just they're just gonna just ride to the bottom and probably be a bottom 5 team with all the changes they made. They might need to make some trades because the people you've received aren't really contributing that much. The Seattle one, it was just fair. I think these teams are just dropped the gloves and they're just firing off and hitting each other one by one. So that was kind of an entertaining game to see if you like goals. But it's good to see them get those 3 wins in a row and actually step up and be that better team we know they can be.
Yeah, exactly. And they were scoring like crazy, right? I mean, the Ducks got 16 goals in those 3 games. I mean, it's like, holy crap, where did this come from? And you guys know that when the Ducks score 3 goals or more, that's like their magic number. They're 21-0-2. So most of their wins this year have come with 3 goals or more, which also they beat the Canadiens in this last stretch too. So, yeah, I liked what I saw. A lot of offense, a lot more scoring. Defense was good, except for, obviously, the Seattle game. Just kind of a really wacky, wild first period, but, the Ducks were able to come out and win that one. They then had the game in Calgary, which this was kind of crazy. I did not know this, but the Ducks actually scored first in this game, and things looked okay in the beginning. And then, of course, Calgary scored the next 4 and ended up winning, and it ended up being, this was probably the worst game in the last 7 games for the Ducks. But Toronto scored a shorthanded goal, Eddie, in this. And I didn't know this, but 1, it was the Ducks' first shorthanded goal of the season. And 2, they were the last team in the league to score a shorthanded goal this season. That's just crazy.
Yeah, what a stat. And that just goes to, and which we'll discuss later, the special teams have been a problem for the last few seasons. And it's kind of embarrassing to be the last team to score and get your first shorthanded goal, which they are rare to come by. It's not one of those things where everyone scores their shorthanded goal, but you got to just start pressing these players a little bit more. Some people kind of overthink when they're on the power play. Some teams, they kind of overly pass, which we've seen the Ducks do numerous times. Take advantage of their mishaps. Get like a nice defensive play to strip the puck from their points. You have a breakaway, and breakaways are hard for goalies to stop. So I think the Ducks can kind of step it up, and we've been talking about all season on their special teams, and this is an example of it.
Yeah, and we'll dive into that in the team stats in a little bit after we cover the games. But Eddie's right. The special teams have been an issue, though the penalty kill has been better as of late. The power play's been terrible, but I'll hold that for a little bit later in the show. Another part too, that a good thing that we've seen with the Ducks too is they've been able to come back, right? Like we mentioned, they were losing 3-2 against Seattle, and they ended up coming back and winning that game. Well, when I went to the game against the Canadiens, Terry was out sick, as we kind of talked about. It's been kind of going around. Gudis was sick. He missed that game against the Kings. Even Allie was sick. She didn't do the broadcast for that Kings game. I've been sick. I know a lot of people at work have been sick. I think probably some of you guys have been sick. It's just been going around. But the Ducks got down in that game 2-0 in the first period. One of their worst first periods that they had played. And I thought, oh man, they're going to lose this game. They had lost to Calgary. And then, no, what happens? They get 2 quick back-to-back goals in that second period to tie it up and then get the winning goal and hang on in the third. And so we've seen a little bit of that. That's where, in the last couple seasons, we remember when the Ducks would get down by 2 goals, you could basically just turn off the TV because, it was like, hey, if they're down by 2 or more, they're not going to come back. But, they have 2 games here where they were losing after the first period and they came back and won. So the one little good thing about the Ducks there is I liked what I saw in them coming back there in that one. And then also you had Gibson and them going against the Stars, and you had Dostal and them going against the Kings. They beat both those teams 2-1. A great game for Gibson against the Stars, and obviously a great game for Dostal against the Kings. But what are your thoughts on these recent games? The Ducks have now won the last 3 games, and they were all 1-goal games. So the Ducks are also winning the tight games too, Eddie.
Yeah, that's good to see. It reminds me back in the day when they used to be called the comeback kids. They would go down by a goal or 2, and they'd find a way to step up and win. And the playoffs did the same thing when they were a playoff team. So it's good to see that mentality and that no quit and just keep fighting. And maybe they're terrified of big bad Cronin getting on their case. They don't get yelled at, so they're actually stepping up and being better team on the ice and having a better product. But yeah, with the Calgary game, I think that was their first biggest challenge. They are a playoff contending team, and they did lose, but you have to give them credit for playing their asses off those first 3 games. So, I mean, if beating Calgary would have been a good thing or a big thing, but you know what? They still played their hardest, and they didn't really fall back on their backs and just kind of let them run over them. So that's good to see. With the Canadians, too, got to see, because you're going down 2 goals that quick on a team that's a lower standing, too. That's kind of a bottom team. You would think that's going to just kind of sucks the whole momentum out of you. You have that mentality like, okay, we're going to get lost number 2 in a row. And no, they stuck through it. They got some quick goals. And they kind of just persevered and got that win. So that's really good to see. The Stars was another big test for them. Stars have went out, and they made some moves to make their team better, which we'll talk about it during our trade portion and trade rumors section. But it was a good game to watch from start to finish. I think the Ducks really kind of held on to it. They skated with them. Obviously, the Stars are, I think they're one of a Stanley Cup contending teams that you can kind of ride on that might even have a chance at winning the Stanley Cup. But it was good to see the Ducks kind of push them on their heels and hold off and get a win. So that was really good to see. I went to this game too. Really fun game. Sat with some really cool people talking about hockey. So it was fun to watch this in person with one of my friends. She's moving to Seattle, so that was her first Anaheim Ducks game. So it was kind of cool to see that. And it was even best to get a win. Driving home after a loss, back where I live, kind of sucks. But when they win, it's like, okay, positive vibes. I'm happy. And it looked great. And that was a really good game. So I was kind of glad I was there to see that. I think the only issue I had, Mike, with that game, and I don't know why the Honda Center security staff, they think they're cops and they think they're awesome or something. Like, dude, relax. Like, I was waiting outside the team store for my friend to go get a shirt. They're running me out and kicking me out of the building like I'm a terrorist or something. And the one girl had an attitude. She said, "Well, why aren't you with your friend?" I'm like, "Okay, well, I have an alcohol beverage, and part of your rules is not to go inside the team store with open drinks." And just the way that their conduct is, I can tell you right now, Mike, they're going to get hurt one day. Do you keep talking to people with that amount of disrespect over something small, someone's not going to like it and pop off. If I didn't care about my future, and if I was a piece of shit and didn't have a decent job or a good job, I would have started swinging on those people real quick. And I even told the guy, I'm like, you act like I'm a terrorist and have a bomb in this building, bro. Like, relax. I'm like, you're not a cop. You're an underpaid, glorified security person. Like, just have some customer service and some more decorum. And it's like, that's the only issue I had. And everything else in Honda Center, like the ushers I sat next to, new ushers I sat in the club level this time. But everyone's been good. Even when we go with you, Mike, the games, I love that usher. I forgot his name. He reminds me of Robin, how friendly he is. He's always willing to talk, and everything else is perfect. It's security has a thing on their shoulder, thinking they're like special forces FBI agents or something. But yeah, other than that, the game was perfect. We got some nice swag at the team store. I did run into Aaron too. Made sure I said hi to him. I saw Jen and a few other people that we kind of know through hockey, so it was good to see all of them. And it was an overall fun experience. Oh, the Jack Daniels Lounge bartenders too were awesome. Really friendly, super cool. One of the girls was making I guess a michelada or something, and it blew up on her face. So I felt bad for her. But yeah, we did tip them well, just how respectful and how nice they were being. And they were short staffed, but that didn't let them bother them. They kept going on, smiling, joking with people, and they made the experience even better too.
I haven't been to the Jack Daniels bar in a while. I kind of forgot about it now that you mentioned it, because now they have that, I forgot what that thing is. It's called down underneath, where the players come out, but you have to pay $1 bazillion for that.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot about that. I'd like to check that out. And yeah, but our experience has been good. Sucks that you had that bad one with the security. I haven't had any issue other than with opposing fans, as you guys know, as I've talked about, mainly Canadian fans, and I won't rehash that whole thing. But yeah, I liked what I saw. For some reason, the Ducks are able to play well against the Stars. They beat them earlier in the season, and this game was good. You had Cutter scoring in there. Dallas tied it up, but then Zegras scored right away after on a nice tip redirection.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful tip.
Yeah. And the other part too, and I know we won't spend too much time on this, but you look at the comments too about Zegras and Gibson. Everybody's all happy. I don't know if you saw this, those of you who are listening, that they gave Gibson a big off-road vehicle at practice. They drove it on the ice at the practice facility, and then I guess he's going to take it back to his place in Pittsburgh. So, it seems like there isn't a lot of issues going on there. It seems like things are going good. And then, they go and they beat the Kings. I really thought the Kings, I thought they were going to beat them 1-0. Dumoulin got his first goal as a Duck in the third. A very spirited game back and forth in the first two periods. And it looked like one of those games where it would be a one-goal game, but the Kings scored just less than 3 minutes to go, and then they had to go to overtime. The Kings almost won it in overtime, but they ended up going to shootout, and then Zegras, who is just a monster in shootouts, he's 13 for 20 now. He's got the best record in the league currently. There's one other player, Dumoulin, that was 8 for 10 in his career, but that was only in 10 attempts. But Zegras is the best shootout player currently in the NHL, and he came through with another nice move in that game. And then, of course, Carlsson scored, and then the two Kings attempts hit the posts. So Dostal got a little lucky in the shootout, but I mean, Dostal was on fire, as you mentioned earlier, stopping 43 out of 44 shots. And the Ducks took down the Kings. It would have been nice to blank them and get that 1-0 win in regulation, because the Kings still pick up a point. But hey, any day you can take a win, I'll take it, because the Ducks have had a tough time against the Kings. They've only scored one goal in regulation in the 3 times that they've played. They lost the first two, 4-1 and 2-1, and then in this one they pull out the shootout win, 2-1. So each game they've only gotten one goal in regulation. It's been tough for the Ducks getting offense against LA. So I'll take that win. And and it's a good send off too. They're going into this Four Nations break, which we'll talk about that in our league news a little bit at the end of the show. We'll talk about Carlsson and whatnot. And kind of talk about the overall team actually at this point. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. Good and bad, I think. As we talked about, McTavish has been on fire, 7 goals in the last 8 games. But then Carlsson has not been scoring. Carlsson hasn't scored in 9 games. He's only got 1 goal in his last 17 games. So some of that comes with the lineup and some changes and things that, Eddie and I have kind of talked about. I feel like they got to change these top 2 lines, Eddie. I mean, I don't feel like this Killorn, Carlsson, Zegras line is working. I don't know if maybe you put Zegras at center and then Carlsson at the wing. And then also the Vetrano, Strome, Terry line. I know Terry's been sick, and I know it's been kind of going around the locker room and stuff, but that line is kind of slowed down. So another option is maybe you switch Carlsson and Strome. Maybe you put Carlsson on that line and Strome on the other line. Or maybe you switch Terry and put Terry with Zegras and Killorn on the line. Those are just some suggestions I have. I don't know. What are you thinking on what you're seeing with the team? Because obviously McTavish is tearing it up. But, we know Carlsson can score in a shootout. But, man, he's just been really, not scoring. I mean, he's got a couple assists in the last couple games. But I think something needs to shake up there in that forward line to get that offense going a little bit better.
I know this might be controversy thing. Oh, I wanted to one thing. I'll rewind. You mentioned about Gibson getting an off-road vehicle and sending it back home to Pittsburgh. So you're saying that there's rumors that Pittsburgh and Gibson are Ducks and the Penguins are gonna make a move for Gibson. Is that what you're saying, Mike? Is the rumor you're hearing?
I think that rumor
is that how it works?
I think that rumor's been going on for like 5 years now.
Oh, don't. You know what? Don't. I hope Frank Saravelli doesn't listen to this podcast. He's going to sue you for copyright infringement on Gibson rumors since he likes to start them out of nowhere, pulls them out of their ass. But you know what? I wouldn't be opposed. And my thing is, why not send Carlsson down to the goals? Let him retool his game. Let him get his confidence back. A little slower pace down there. Obviously, he's been really cold. 1 goal in 17 games. Something's going on. He's not clicking. He's not gelling right now. And I don't think whatever you do is going to help if you move him down the lineup. I think right now his confidence is probably shot having that sophomore slump. And I think something needs to be done. And I'm not opposed. And we've heard it numerous times from other players getting sent down, how pissed off they were at first, but they come up and they start kicking ass. I want to say the most recent, or the last couple seasons, was Suzuki. He got sent down. He was pissed off in the team photo he had to take in the AHL, but he came back and now he's kicking ass as the captain of the Canadians. And I think something like that needs to kind of shake the results from the head. Like either you get sent down, you dwell on it, and you don't overcome it and thrive from it, or you just dwell on it. Like I think. Something like that, and I'm not opposed to, especially with the defense too, Mike. We have this issue with the rotating defenders, which I don't think is right. I think they need to play. And I think something like that should happen. Another thing I would like to do is you got to make a trade for someone. Obviously, these lines, minus our elite third line, they're not working. I mean, our bottom six, I think we're good with. I think we could both agree our bottom six, especially the third line, have been great, but the top six needs some work. It's just sometimes you get production, sometimes you don't, but it's more cold than hot, and I think something needs to change. Either a trade or shake things up, send someone down, bring someone up, or something like that. But right now, I wouldn't touch our bottom six. I think they're fine how they are. But I mean, it's hell. The way sometimes how cold our top six is going, throw a defenseman in there. You're gonna scratch him. We've seen it with Brett Burns, which he was an offensive player before, but then you see it with Dustin Bufflin too. They create a different kind of a threat when they're on those lines and playing forward. But I don't know, with Carlsson, it's just you don't want to just shoot his confidence for the whole season and him just dwell on it and ride it to the next season. Send him down and see how he responds. He gets a few goals. He gets a nice little points. That's power play opportunity. He gets points off that. Call him back up when he had a few games over there. He has a new confidence coming back to the Ducks and go from there.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see with the Four Nations thing, with him going and playing, that'll do anything and help him out a little bit. Or maybe that shootout goal will help him.
Which was a beautiful one. It was a beautiful, oh man.
Yeah, it was awesome. The other part is the goals are playing like 5 or 6 games during this Four Nations break. Obviously, you can't send Carlsson down because he's going to play in that tournament. But you mentioned that whole defenseman problem that we've talked about. That's where, we've seen Minty in, Zellweger in, and then Helleson. I mean, to me, maybe send some of those guys down there and let them play down there and let them do their thing. I mean, for me, the odd man out on defense is Helleson. That's the way I look at it. I think Minty and Zellweger are the ones that you stay in there. I mean, granted, all 3 of them had to play against the Kings because Gudis was out sick. and they ended up working. So it's not by a lot. I don't think it's just different styles of game. Obviously, Zellweger and Minty have more offense, and Hellison's more stay at home. But then when you've got Gudis and Dumoulin in there, it's like, okay, what is the balance? And then obviously, Cronin's talked about the left-hand shot, right-hand shot. There's that whole deal too, trying to figure that out, what you want to do. But, I'll save the trade talk because we'll get to that in a minute about kind of fixing that problem. But yeah, I don't know what it is. The Ducks top six it's had moments. I think that Vetrano, Strome, and Terry was really good earlier in the season, and now it's kind of slowed down. Zegras has been doing all right. Killorn's kind of up and down. He has a few games where he gets kind of hot and gets on a roll, and then he kind of gets cold here and there. So I just don't. My thing was Killorn and Zegras. I don't know if they should be on the same line. That's why I almost feel like if you do like a Vetrano, Zegras, Terry line with Zegras in the center, I think that could be badass. And then maybe you shift Carlsson to the wing with Strome and Killorn, or I don't know, try and figure out something that way. But I'm with you on the bottom six. Definitely don't touch those. Of course, the fourth line is always the mix-up line. Anyways, you got Lundstrom, Leeson, Harkins, and Johnston that are pretty much on there. That's not really going to change. They kind of rotate that depending on who they're playing, right? If they're playing a tougher team, then physically you usually see Johnston more in there. But Harkins is also a pretty tough guy to play against too. I like his game. So, so overall, it seems that they've been doing a lot better. They're still in the bottom of the league, obviously, and all the different things that we've talked about. You can look at all the analytical stats and you can compare them to last year, and they're very similar. They're towards the bottom. But in the last 7 games, they have done better on the penalty kill. They're 15 for 18 in kills, 83%, which is really, really good. They've been doing much better there. The power play has been god awful. The power play has been 0 for 15, 2 for the last 21. And then something interesting that came up, and I know you don't like it. We talked about it before we got on the show, but the power play, the Ducks had 2 power plays in the game against the Kings. I don't really count the second one because it was like with 20 seconds to go in overtime. So, whatever, it's an abbreviated power play. But the one full 5-on-4 power play they had, they went with 5 forwards, which was, I thought, interesting, and they put Zegras on the point. They didn't score, but throwing Zegras back there is interesting instead of, usually it's Zellweger or Minty that's back there. So, what did you think? It didn't work out. It was only 1 power play. But, you're kind of, I guess, throwing caution into the wind, Eddie, when you put 5 forwards on your power play and no defenseman.
Yeah, that was kind of, to me, it was weird. Like, what are you trying to do? Obviously, do you want to get a shorthanded goal scored on you? Yeah, I know your whole thing is, but it's just, I guess, too many Chiefs, not enough Indians. I think that's a good quote to use. You're having too many offensive people that are trying to do something. I don't know. For me, it doesn't work. If all of a sudden it took one little tip and you're going one-on-one with an offensive player and you're an offensive player, obviously you don't know the defensive game that well. You weren't trained. Your whole professional career has been playing offense, and you can easily just get deked out, make a big mistake, make the first move, and let the other person go. And you're not very, you could even screen your goalie inadvertently, and you wouldn't even know what you're doing because you're not that defensive thing, and you're not kind of listening to it. It's defense in hockey. I think it's harder than playing forward. That's just my opinion. Obviously the hardest position I think is goalie, but. Yeah, that was kind of weird. And just for what? Just to get the extra point? Yeah, I know you want to get the win. And you want your wins to get up there, but there's no point in it at that point. You're just kind of risking everything. And what you're doing, too, is you're kind of throwing off a strategy. Like, you're at practice. Are you practicing with 5 offensive players on the rink? It kind of reminds me of Patrick Wall when he first took over the Avs. And then even with the Islanders, how he would pull the goalie. I remember one game, they were losing against Boston. He pulled the goalie with it was like 9 or 10 minutes left in the third period, Mike. That's unheard of, and that's just crazy. With him, he's just too competitive and wants to win. So, and I believe they paid dividends on that occasion, but it's still kind of crazy. He did that with the Islanders too. He pulled it with I want to say some natural or significant time left in the third period, and the other team ended up scoring and kind of got shot in the mouth on that one. But I don't know. I think it's you shouldn't be gambling and things like that in the regular season. That's something you do in playoffs or something like that. You don't go ahead and do that. Especially to Ducks fans and to California, like Southern California. I think the Ducks and Kings, even though it's kind of boring hockey, it's not as it's entertaining as it was 5 or 6 years ago with the fights and the hard hitting, and there's no really rivalry to each teams. But as fans, it's like, okay, that's bragging rights, and I don't know. That's something kind of like one of those kind of important games. You have to really step up and really try to get a win. I think it could have backfired on them, and then we would have been 0-3 in the series, and just hoping in April we get that extra win. So, but you know what? I'm glad that Carlsson and Zegras stepped up in the shootout and made scored some amazing goals. Riddick has been playing well this season, so I think it was something that we can hold our heads up high and have that kind of bragging rights for the next 2 weeks since we're not going to be playing any hockey. But hey, we beat the Kings even though they're still up 2-1 in the series. But we did a good job, and thank God for Zegras and for Carlsson and that shootout.
Yeah, exactly. The shootout was amazing, as we talked about earlier. And yeah, I'm with you on the power play. It does seem kind of weird. You put out. I do like Zegras going to the point. I think that's great. Go for it with his creativity and his mobility and all that stuff. I think it's fantastic. But I still think you need somebody on there on the blue line, at least one person. Yeah, and I'm with you. If you're going to try something like that, that's like you're in a playoff series against the Kings and you're down like 3-1 or something, and you're losing game 5, and you need to win that game to extend the series or something like that kind of a thing. Then you start pulling rabbits out of your hat and doing things like that. And you're right, pulling the goalie so early. I remember Dallas pulled their goalie pretty early in that game, and the Ducks were still able to pull it out, having to fight it off. And you see some teams do that, but never 9-10 minutes. That's crazy. Most coaches are going to do it in the last 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 4 or 5 minutes. You see some of that, but a lot of it's in the last like 2-3 minutes. But yeah, the Ducks pulled it out, like we said, really good in the shootout. And yeah, I think the only other thing is kind of we had some fan questions about this team being 500. We kind of answered Chris J. Campos' question already about Leo Carlsson, what to do with him. He also asked, well, hey, we're in February, we're at 500. Is the season a success? And then we had the Swamp Father, both on Instagram, asked, do you think the Ducks secure a wild card spot at the end of the season? Right now, they've been sitting around 8 to 10 points out of a wild card spot. That's kind of been where they've been the last couple of weeks. I think it's just really, really tough. I mean, Eddie and I did talk about them being 500. That's what we wanted them to be. They're at that now. We're kind of 2/3 of the way through the season. I like that. If they can stay at 500 or even go a little bit ahead, that would be fantastic. But looking at the standings, and the teams that they're going to try to beat, Eddie's other team, Colorado, that's in the mix there. They're not going to catch Colorado. I mean, the Ducks are 14 points behind them. There's no way that's going to happen. Then from then on, you've got Vancouver at 63, Calgary at 60, and then Utah and St. Louis are tied. Utah's got a game still to go before the break, so they could maybe move up. But the Ducks are right behind Utah and St. Louis. They're right behind them. Obviously, they can pass those guys, but trying to catch Vancouver, Calgary is going to be tough. If the Ducks would have beat Calgary, they would only be 4 points. Let's see, yeah, no, they'd only be 2 points behind Calgary if they would have beat them. The Calgary would have been at 58, and the Ducks would have been at 56. That would have been very, very close. But I think it's tough. Is this season a success? It really depends on what are you looking at? If you're one of those people that's looking at all the advanced stats and everything, no, the season's not a success because they're still in the bottom of almost everything. In terms of the way that they've been winning these games lately and the way that they're playing, if they can continue that momentum, They obviously have a better record than they did last year, then yes, I think that part's a success. But there's still a lot of work to go with this team. I do like the penalty kill. I like how it's done better. Power play, though, some serious issues. You can't go 0 for 15 in a row. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And 2 for 21. And then I think it's like 5 for the last 65 or something like that. It's just stupid. The power play, that's just completely unacceptable. So it's mixed results for me, Eddie. I think in record wise, and certain players, obviously Dostal and Gibson are killing it. McTavish is killing it. We've seen Lacombe has really been one of the other younger guys that's made some serious strides this season. Just like overall, his entire game is just ridiculous. His two-way game has been fantastic. Total top 4 defenseman right now. So I would say it's been a success in some things, but not in a bunch of other things as well. So it for me, it's just a mixed bag, Eddie. I don't know what are your thoughts on the Ducks playing 500, and what do you see as it being successful season for them?
I still no. I still don't. I mean, I think it's better than last season. I think we can agree on that. Last season was kind of everywhere. I think we've seen more flashes of greatness from this team this season than we did last season. I still think the Ducks have a lot of work to do. I think it's sad to say. I think they're one of the softest teams in the league, if not the most softest team in the league. I go back to that Dallas game. And I know one of our followers, too, mentioned that, because I got pissed off. There's a scrum going on. All 5 Dallas players are going after our forwards, and you have Lacombe and Gudis is back just kind of, I don't know, just chilling there watching. Apparently, if you go down on the top hash marks to go engage in that, it's a penalty. But at that point, who gives a damn? I'd rather take a loss for you to defend your teammates and be there. And we've seen this numerous and countless. I think every show and every games we talk about, Mike, there's something that the Ducks are just lacking, that physicality and that grit. And I don't know if wearing that C on Gudis, he was told and talked to about his aggressive game, but that's what you relied on. Have your teams back. And I don't give a damn. Like I said, Dallas could have took the win. Gudis and Lacombe could have got those penalties, and they could have Dallas could have scored 2 goals and beat the Ducks 3-1, 4-1. I wouldn't have cared as long as I've seen them having their players back, and which I haven't seen that. That's what that chemistry is. I don't see. You can play professional sports, you can play beer league sports, you can just be at the bar with your buddies. If you get into a scrum or something happens, and you see your buddies, you see your beer league teammates, you see your collegiate teammates not getting your back, that just speaks volumes to it. And I think that's one of the issues I have with the Ducks. As far as the success thing, I think it's kind of 50-50 for me. Like I said, I do like the flashes of greatness we've seen in this team. It just seems like they're soft. Like them, there's other team of Buffalo as another one that's probably soft in mine. Even my second favorite team, I think Colorado is probably one of the top softest teams in the league, and you have to grind it out in the playoffs. You have to really dig your teeth in and sacrifice everything. We've seen players, Rich Peverly, I want to bring back. This was years ago, Mike. I want to say he was part of the Dallas Stars, but he actually died. He died on the bench, and he had to get revived. They had to call announce that there's a doctor and as the fans, and they had to help with that. But they actually revived him, and his first thing was, I want to come back and I want to play. Can I come back my next shift? I don't think the Ducks have that kind of mentality to do that. You can't even defend your teammates. We've seen Lundestrom. I think the last podcast we were talking about Lundestrom getting laid out and nothing happens. It just, okay, good for you. Let's just stay over here and jerk off and not do anything. Like, no, do something. Get in their back. Like, I think that's kind of most disgusting thing I can see is teammates not getting each other's back, and I think that's the issue with this team. The Swamp Father, he asked if they can secure a playoff spot, or I'm sorry, a wild card spot. I think Vancouver's going to fumble. I think they had a lot of internal issues. That's not done with. I think it was just more than one player. I think Elias Pettersson had some issues too, and kind of after that contract and everything going on, I think they're just going to fumble. I think Calgary, with the moves they made, and we can discuss them now since we're talking about Calgary. They brought in from Philadelphia Joel Fabry and Morgan Frost. And I think Morgan Frost had a goal in his first game when he played with them. I think those moves are going to play dividends. They have 2 young goaltenders that are playing really well. I think they're going to rise up, and they're going to be a threat, a kind of a secret sleeper for the Cup. But I wouldn't. There's part of me as a fan that wants to see the Ducks make a wild card spot, but then I don't want to get embarrassed. I don't want them to just significantly get just blown out, lose 4 games in a row, and just be embarrassed and just kind of have that negativity to the players. Yes, the experience might help, but I think right now is not the right spot. Things change at the trade deadline, Mike, which you talked about last podcast is going to be one of the most important deadlines. I want to, and like you mentioned too, in Ducks in recent history or yeah, I said in history, that's going to play a huge role. But I mean, are you going to give up on your picks right now or some prospect players just to bring in some rentals, just to have a shot at making a wild card spot and getting blown out? This team is not a Stanley Cup team, and you know what? I'm all in. It's either all or nothing. You don't go to the prom hoping to come second place or runner up, being prom queen. You want to or prom king. You want to go and win it all, and I don't think right now the Ducks can. I wouldn't want them to make a wild card spot at all. I want them to be close. I like where they are. I like the flashes of greatness. I want them to beat the harder teams. I want them to have the harder teams not just throw in some backup goalie every time they play the Ducks. I want them to play starters, in which this last run too, Mike, which I like. A lot of these teams were playing their top goalies, not just throwing some backup goalie, which some backup goalies are good too, including Riddick that played against the Ducks when he was with the Kings. But yeah, I guess I'm going on forever with that. But yeah, that's the things I want to see, and it kind of answers like the questions that they had.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm in the same boat. If we make the playoffs, and we get bounced out right away, it's not going to be good. And yeah, that toughness part has been frustrating. Minchikov got punched in the face at the end of that Calgary game, and nothing happened. I was also upset that the league didn't even look at it. It was a complete cheap shot by Patchell at the end, and I'm like, what is this crap, dude? And nothing. I even posted the video, and everyone was upset. So, but no one went after that dude. I know it was at the very end, but yeah, so. We'll dive into the trade stuff. I'm just going to read the DraftKings little ad that we got here, and then we've got all kinds of stuff about the Ducks and trade rumors and all that, and we'll dive into that. But this is the NHL season that has been as predictable as pucks rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure it out, and games left for you to get in the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NHL. You can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778 HOPENY or text HOPENY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. You can call 888-789-7777 or visit cpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/audio. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the NHL hockey. NHL and NHL teams are the property of the NHL and its teams. So yeah, I just had to read that out to you. I decided to read it instead of doing the audio.
Good ad read. Good read. Oh man, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot. I was like, oh man, and I'm still not feeling 100%, so a little bit of a pain. But this second half of the show is pretty much the trade rumors, and also the cap went up, so we'll talk a little bit about that with the Ducks. I know we're not off to the off season yet, but that kind of ties into the Ducks and the moves that they should make or could make or whatever. But rumors have been flying again. It's funny, you mentioned Frank Zaravelli earlier in the show. He had his trade board come out, and Zegras was not on it. I was surprised. He was not on it. Gibson was on it. And then we had our good friends at the fourth period saying that the Ducks are taking phone calls on Zegras and that the Ducks want a defenseman as part of the return. I don't know what's going on over there. These guys, honestly, they do a great job. Overall, they do a great job. But when it comes to the Ducks, I don't know what it is when they talk about the Ducks. They're just so far out there. Like, the Ducks don't need another defenseman. We've already talked about trying to trade like Dumoulin away, or sending someone down to the minors and rolling with what they got. And then the Zegras thing is hilarious. I think that is never going to die. A lot of you guys asked questions. We had Captain Duck 2309. He asked Zegras trade rumors, and why won't it stop when it shows that he's playing better? And yes, the Ducks, have won 6 of the last 7 with them in there. Summer Elder asks if he's going to be traded. Chris J. Campos, who always asks this question, said the same thing about Zegras. So there's just a ton of that stuff going on there. I just don't. I don't see it going anywhere. I really don't. I don't see him getting traded. And I laugh when there's reports that say, well, they're taking calls on people, because Eddie and I, you and I have beat a dead horse on that one. Everybody's taking calls on everybody that's a big name player. We've talked about that before. There's also the Gibson rumors, right? So Beard Magic 18 asked, are we trading Gibson? The Mighty Jersey's our other buddy. Is he going to be traded maybe around the time? Because Gibson's got 500 games played, which is the most of any Ducks goalie in a franchise record. But he's still behind in the all-time wins. He's second. So wondering if he'd be traded after that. Those are the two big first names. I'll kind of leave it at that. I would say Zegras is still a no. And Gibson is a maybe. Remember, we had that earlier report in the season by Elliot Freeman where he thought Gibson, this was the time he was going to be traded, but then he also prefaced it by saying, I've been wrong before. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't see Zegras. I just don't see him getting traded. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe something crazy happens and he gets moved. But I would say Gibson is if he's traded, I could see it happening. And he won't if it happens. I mean, I don't think there's enough games left to play where he can be the all-time win leader. So it would probably happen before then. But there's a couple other players to talk about. But those are the two big ones that have been out there and floated around. So what do you think about Zegras and Gibson, Eddie?
It's just Gibson. It's been going around for so many times, and this whole thing, they're taking calls, but I think that's just bullshit. I think that's irresponsible. I guess if you call some of these people a journalist just to get clicks. I guess the hot names that come up, they would throw them out there. And it's just kind of annoying sometimes. Yeah, we get it. They're taking calls. Everyone takes calls. Or they have an email system that's all connected to the GMs, which they go and throw out there for everybody. So I don't get... I guess if your page is not doing that well, then, Mike, we should just start taking calls on saying the Ducks are taking calls on trading Zegras and McKinnon's part of the thing. That'd be big to blow everybody up. It's like, come on. I guess it's irresponsible. It's not fair. But that's been going on for the longest time, and they're not going to change. They rather have the first clicks are more clicks than integrity. But I mean, I would keep saying it for years. Gibson his value is going up. I mean, it probably dropped after. There's not really a market for goaltenders right now. You had Carolina. You still have Pittsburgh in it, but Pittsburgh doesn't seem like they're going to make the playoffs, and I don't think Gibson would want to go there. And then you also had Colorado make 2 moves and got their goalies they needed, and I think they signed Blackwood too. So I think they're set on that. I get the market kind of cooled down, so I don't think he'll be going at the trade deadline unless there's something significant. I know Edmonton's been mentioned numerous times on that. I don't know if they want to trust their goaltending tandem to go over there. I think that the biggest thing too right now is the cap is going up significantly over the next 3 years. So teams can afford to take that extra salary. Ducks don't have to eat up as much. But I think my question would be, is Doss has his contract's up this season. He's an RFA, so Ducks have control over that. But he's going to command some more money. He's been playing lights out. He's been playing really, really well for the Ducks too. Look at his 43 saves on 44 shots against the Kings. I think he's proven that he can kind of take over the spot and be a game changer and a difference maker for the Ducks. So why are you going to kind of carry 2 goalies? And I'm not sure what his cost would be right now. I haven't really looked at all that and seen kind of kind of similarities between stats between other goalies in the league and what they're getting paid. But I would assume that the cap's going up. He's going to want more money. I'm assuming when Zegras' contract is up, he's going to want a little bit more money. The Ducks, the cap is going up, so all these players are going to want more money. So are you going to pay what Doss about $4, $5, $6 million to sign him to a bridge or long term and play I want to say 6, 12, 13, $14 million for two goalies? Doesn't make sense, especially when, and I don't know the outcome of this team is going to be next season. Maybe if they bring in some big names and they actually get significant help, they start playing more chemistry, they start improving their stats before the end of the season. Okay, now we have something to work with. Ducks have something to play on, and they can make some moves in the offseason as well. But I guess the trade deadline is going to be when I wait and see. I want him to be traded. I think he deserves. I think he sucked it up enough on this team and not having playing competitive hockey after April. I would love him to go to an organization that's going to give him a chance to win the Stanley Cup each and every season. And I hope he does. He's done a lot for the Ducks, the 500 wins, and he's been a factor. You don't hear him really crying or bitching about the team, which you see other players as recent have been doing. But I think we have a number one goalie. We can go out there and get another nice little backup and kind of ride out the season next season and see how this team can go. Either they're going to trend upward or they're going to be downward and go from there. But I think, if anything, I'd probably see him going in the offseason more than at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I'm with you as far as him going to a contender and helping him out. I agree. And yeah, the cap situation is going to definitely play into this big time. It's going to go up to $95 million next season, and the Ducks, not counting the players, I'll break it down real quick, but not counting the players that they got to sign, they're going to have almost $40 million in cap space. So they got a lot of dough coming up. Their RFAs, you mentioned some of them. You have Lundestrom, Leeson, McTavish, Helleson, and Dostal. All those guys making around $1 million or just under $1 million. Lundestrom is at 1.5. And then your UFAs, you have Fabry at $4 million, Dumoulin just over $3 million, and McGinn just under $3 million. And we had Chris J. Campos asked about trading Dumoulin or Fabry because, being on the 1-year deal and whatnot and trying to get stuff back. There are also talks of Strome. They were saying that the Blue Jackets may be looking at somebody like him because Marchenko's out for 6 to 8 weeks. That's another name to kind of watch. So there's a lot of room. The Ducks have space. I think you're right, Eddie, on Dostal. He's going to command somewhere, and I haven't looked at comparables, but he's definitely going to be several million. I mean, it's got to be 4, 5, 6 million, somewhere in there with the way he's playing. There was reports that McTavish might be doing a bridge deal. If he keeps this pace up, he's obviously going to get a raise in there. Leeson's been solid. We've talked about how underrated he's been, and it doesn't get a lot of attention this season. So I could see him getting not a significant raise, but somewhat of a raise, and Lundestrom as well. So I mean, you're going to take out some chunk of that there, but then what do you do with Fabry, Dumoulin, and McGinn? I'm really big on them trying to trade Dumoulin because that solves the blue line problem, as we mentioned earlier, and then you pick up whoever you can pick up. Fabry, it's weird. I like what I'm seeing with him and McTavish and Gauthier. Earlier in the season, I was kind of like, what are you going to do? Like, whatever. But I kind of like what I'm seeing. So, I don't know. Maybe they do try to keep him. It's interesting to see how that'll play out. But definitely try to trade Dumoulin. I do like McGinn. Of course, unfortunately, you guys all know he got hurt and he's had to have surgery and he's going to be out. That the way he got checked in his knee and all that. Oh my God. So he's going to be gone for a while. But the key to this, and we did mention in the last show, this trade deadline is probably one of the biggest ones for the Ducks. But the Ducks have options. I mean, they're going to be so far under the cap coming up this summer. So if they want to make some moves and make some splashes at the trade deadline, they can. They could hang on to Gibson, and then just let him ride out the rest of his contract if they want. I don't know if that's what they would want to do. I think you'd want to try to send him somewhere that's a contender, like Eddie mentioned, and then get something back for him. So a lot of options here. The Ryan Strome stuff's interesting. I wouldn't mind them trading him too. I don't think he's been all that great for the Ducks. I mean, with that Vetrano, Strome, Terry line, if you're looking at the centers, that kind of solves the Zegras issue, because you could put Zegras at center, and then you have Carlsson, McTavish, and Lundestrom. Those would be your four centers. If you don't bring back Lundestrom and you trade him or whatever you do, you still have got Harkins that can play down there too. I'm not really worried about the fourth line as much, but getting Zegras back at center I think would be beneficial, and moving Strome out would kind of help that. So those are some of the names I would look at. I would pay attention. Of course, Zegras and Gibson's name always comes up, so it is what it is. We just mention it because there's been some articles out there and stuff floating around. But the real ones that I would pay attention to would be Fabry, Dumoulin, and Strome. I'm really curious to see if anything happens with those guys. I think those are the ones that could possibly be moved, Eddie. That's just, if we're talking about, the more favorable players to be moved, I think those three, one or two of them could definitely be moved at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think they should all be moved. Bring them. I mean, these are kind of. It's not sure if they're going to resign back, especially these players have to pay a lot more state tax than other teams. They're showcasing them. Dumoulin has been getting a lot of heat on him. He's been playing well. People don't like. You have to do those little things that on defense that help, that slow the play down, that lets the goalie see the puck, lets him kind of get into the play, and I think he does that. A good stay-at-home defenseman. I think he has value. I think he'll do great on a contending team that needs that. I think he's in well. Fabry too. The issue with Fabry is he has a lot of injuries, so is he going to command more money to be on the Ducks next season? I don't think he's worth more than $4 million at all. Again, I would like to see, he is playing well when he did, but I mean, why not just trade him and get some assets? Like we want to build to a better team, and obviously we have special team issues. So bringing in players that can score on the power play, bringing in players that could be a factor on the penalty kill, that can go and try to create offense even though you're down a man. I think that'd be more beneficial and kind of going upwards and trying to get to that Stanley Cup team. Bring in some more nastiness. We need more grit. The Ducks have been, like I said, they're soft. They're a soft team. And we need someone that's going to step up and be that factor and make teams afraid of taking runs or punching people in the face and getting away with it. Ducks need to have accountability for their own players and have that ice justice, which they haven't had. It's sad to see, and I get annoyed. But a lot of trades have happened too. And the Ducks can even be factors. I want to throw out there the Mikko Rantanen trade, because we talked about that in our last podcast. And like I mentioned on X now, I'm sure every 31 teams were in on that. And before he went to Carolina was almost in on Elias Pettersson, but they didn't want to give Natchez for that. But the trade went anyways, and Colorado ended up trading Mikko Rantanen two over there to the Hurricanes and got Natchez, Jack Drury, a second and fourth round pick. And then Carolina ended up getting Rantanen, Taylor Hall from Chicago, and Chicago got a third round pick for eating some salary contract. So basically, the Avalanche traded Mikko Rantanen to the Blackhawks in a three-way trade. The Blackhawks went and traded and ate salary up and traded to Carolina. I think the biggest losers right now in this trade, Mike, is the Blackhawks. They just got a third-round pick for eating up salary and trading Taylor Hall. I think they could have got a little bit more, but I'm good. Blackhawks are a piece of shit organization, so I'm glad they kind of got stuck with that. But my whole point is there's a money issue in Colorado. They had an internal cap, and one party said they offered him just a little under what McKinnon got. But then you hear Rantanen talk about it, saying he was blindsided. So it's either the organization's line or his agent's line to Rantanen, or they're just both lying. There's some truth and some dishonesty to this going on. But I don't think Rantanen will sign with Carolina, especially with 2 points in the last 9 games he's played. It doesn't seem like it's a fit. Well, even watching the few games I watched with him playing with Carolina, it just kind of seems off. Maybe he's still blindsided by that just trade that no one knew about. But I think if I were the Ducks, I would try to kind of attract him in free agency. If he really wants the money, the Ducks can pay him the 13 or 14 million that he wants. And he has a factor in, even though he's not playing and maybe the system in Carolina is not really right for him, which maybe won't be right for the Ducks either, but it's kind of worth a little bit of a gamble if you can see him step up his game and kind of really scout him out really well and bring in that kind of superstar player that the Ducks desperately need and kind of create kind of more creative offense that you mentioned too earlier in the show, like being creative and go from there. But I think the Ducks with the cap space, they do have options, especially how the Ducks finance team were so great with Vetrano's contract by paying him after and doing that to avoid all the ridiculous California state tax. I think that's going to play a factor in a lot more players before the CBA comes in and stops that and the league stops that are going to take advantage of teams that are willing to do that. And I could see teams like LA too as well doing something like that and kind of taking a page out of the Dodgers playbook like the Ducks did and like the Kings hopefully will not hopefully will but will do in the future. But I think that's kind of a big smart thing to do when teams are facing with high state taxes, kind of defer their payment and bring in those players they could be, and it's not going to be detrimental to their cap and not really going to hurt the players when they retire. They'll get their full money.
Yeah, I agree about the cap structure or contract structure that you're talking about, like with Vetrano. And it was funny because you and I talked about Rantanen on the last show, and then as many of you know, a lot of times we record the show, and usually once we edit and everything, it's usually like within the next 24 hours we post it, and then of course something always happens. So it was funny. We were talking about Rantanen. He gets traded. He didn't go to the Ducks. We were hoping the Ducks would be in there. But like you said, I wouldn't rule him out coming up in the summertime. And like, hey, if they want to get him and they want to pay him this, $10 million plus a year, they can do some kind of contract like Vetrano and maybe get Rantanen over here. I mean, we're going to have the space, and that's what I kind of want to see if Verbeek's going to try and do some of that. And as we know, the league is not happy with those kind of contracts. So if he can do that with some of these deals, maybe before they put the kibosh on those type of contracts, I mean, we have tons of money, and you can lure them around those tax things to get them here. That would work out, and maybe it's something that to look at in the summer. When obviously we'll revisit it when we get to that point, but that's something to look at. One other thing too that came up recently, and Elliot Freeman had mentioned this about Glamov and him being possibly signed with the Ducks. Well, he did an interview on VSE Pro Sports, and it's kind of funny that he was saying that the Ducks hadn't really talked to him this season, and that he only was hit up recently, and his decision, he's over there in the KHL. Remember, we were talking about we weren't sure how that would work with him finishing the season there and coming here, but he's saying he's not going to decide until the season's done over there. So that's another one I'm curious to see too, if the Ducks are going to sign him and try and bring him over. He's been on a tear, scoring goals like crazy. He could be another guy to add into the lineup and help offensively. So that's another player that I'd keep your eye on as well. That's like kind of the latest on his situation. So it sounds like we don't know if it's going to happen or not, but it's still kind of a thing in the works that could happen in the summer, like you talked about with Rantanen too. And any of these other top UFA big name players that if the Ducks can try to go after them in the summer, I say go with the Ohtani special contract. Like do the breakdown where you pay some here and you pay some later to help out. And I mean, that's why I'm really curious to see who the Ducks do trade at the trade deadline. I think there will be some moves. I don't think they're going to be crazy moving a lot because they're winning now. They've been, and again, I know we're talking about winning as opposed to the stats, and the stats are still they're better on the penalty kill, as we said, not so good on the power play. Puck possession numbers overall are still down. They've had a couple games where they've been better or they've shown flashes of it. So there's still work to be done, obviously, and they're not quite where we want them to be, but they've definitely improved. We can argue how well they've improved since last season, but that's what I'm curious to see is with them doing that, with them playing better, is that going to affect what Verbeek's going to do at this trade deadline? Is he not going to like panic as much and try to make some moves? Or, does he realize that, hey, we're better, but we're obviously still not where we need to be, and you've got these options here with some of these bigger contracts. I mean, they could fall off in the summer, but why not trade Fabry or Dumoulin and get something in return, and make a move? McGinn may just fall off, unfortunately, because he's hurt, and he's not going to be back until summertime, unfortunately. So he may just go to free agency, unfortunately, and that's a bad thing because he just got hurt. So it kind of is what it is, but. I think it's exciting times with this team. I'm really, really curious to see what they do, Eddie, in the next month or so, and then come summertime.
Oh, yeah, same here. The trade deadline is going to be fun. Like I told you, Mike, I'm going to try to get the day off just so I can cover it and see what's going on and watch the full coverage instead of just sitting there and kind of, I don't know, just trying to work and do the same thing. But luckily, I work from home, so if I get denied, I can actually get paid to cover the draft, or I'm sorry, the free agency. Oh, God, trade rumors. My bad. My second beer is flowing too well now. But another thing I want to say about Mikko Rantanen, he is a Finnish player, so maybe we can give a call or just bug Solani. Maybe get a good word for the Ducks. I think that'd be pretty cool to do. But you know what? It's gonna be fun, trade deadline, and then that off season too. The free agency is gonna be fun. I don't think Carolina is going to have a chance at re-signing him. So with that said, maybe they want to, and they are having talks with re-signing him and his agent. They're talking about trying to get an extension done before the deadline. I don't know if they don't get one done, if they can trade him, because giving up that much for what they gave up, and they don't get anything in return, and he just goes off and does free agency in the offseason, that's going to be a big bite in the ass. That kind of move gets you fired. You can either have praise for that kind of move or you get fired from it. And I think that's something you can kind of translate and go from there. Maybe the Ducks make a run at him at the deadline. But I don't think it's happening. I think he's going to wait. He got blindsided, as what he said, by the trade. So I think he'll write it out and he'll go to free agency. And I think he can command, I think, teams like the Ducks and other teams that need him, his services, that want to just bolster their roster up, that big physical guy that can score. I think he can get 13.5, $14 million. I think a little bit an overpayment, in my opinion, but with the cap going up, it kind of levels out. So we'll see how it goes from there. I don't think he's worth more than Nathan McKinnon. I don't think he's worth more than Leo Draisaitl. I don't think he's more worth than Connor McDavid. Draisaitl is a center and he's a winger. So there's kind of the thing on that. But like you said, Mike, it's going to be fun, and we have and we'll have a show too because we have 2 weeks off for Four Nations, and the deadline's in March. So I'm sure we'll have a good show. We'll get all your trade rumor input, all your questions, and we'll answer them. I know you guys love the trade rumors, and Mike and I will probably put a list together on who we think we want on the Ducks, who think that would be feasible to help the Ducks, and we can compare that and kind of debate that on the next show, or maybe the show after that before the deadline. I think it'd be a fun thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. We have about 2 weeks here of the Four Nations play. As you guys know, Carlsson is in the mix in that, so you get to watch. Little bit of controversy with the Four Nations too. We'll talk about, and you're right. When we do the next show, probably be, it'll be right close to trade deadline. So we'll put a list together and we can kind of talk about it on there. But as far as this Four Nations thing, I kind of have mixed feelings about it. I mean, I'm going to watch. I think it'll be fun. Obviously, some players have been hurt recently. They haven't been able to go. Carlson's still in the mix. He's going to go. Obviously, I'm rooting for Team USA. But it's kind of, it's not the All-Star thing. It's a different thing. It's kind of an in-season tournament, I guess, if you will. I don't know. I'm not really... I don't know. I'm not like happy about it or not. I'm just kind of like, okay, cool. Like, kind of see what it is. I'm going to miss Ducks hockey for 2 weeks. But what do you think about the Four Nations thing, Eddie? What's your take as we wrap up the show?
I'm kind of hit or miss. It's kind of hit or miss for me. I know there's players that opted out on the thing. I know Pietrangelo from Vegas. He was hurt or something, and then he ended up coming. He skated for warm-ups after he said he wasn't going to play in the fourth season tournament. And there was talks about there's going to be like kind of discipline. Like if you miss the All-Star game, you can't play the first game back, which I think is bullshit. I think it's more of just a glorified in-season tournament. I don't think a lot of the players really care about it. And fans, too. Like, fans online have mixed feelings about it. People don't like it. And my whole thing is, okay, Mike, let's say that Ducks are one of those teams are Stanley Cup competitors. And we have, like, superstars in our team, and they go and play for those four nations. They get hurt indefinitely. Then what? You kind of got hurt for playing for... You're not playing for your country. It's not a sanctioned event. You have the logo on your chest, and it's just kind of getting more revenue for the league. And I just found out too recently, Gary Bettman, the commissioner, was the commissioner of basketball of the NBA. That's why you notice a lot of things he's been trying to do, the same thing that the NBA does, which is kind of stupid. I know, like, I just don't. I don't see the point in it. Why don't you give these players the 2 weeks off? Let them spend time with their families. Let them do that and have that leisure time. And stop making them monkeys jump through hoops and wear those stupid little hats and tigers go through everything. Like, no, just let them have the time off. Like, I think for us fans, it's going to be annoying. You can do kind of something different. Bring amateur players in. Have a women's hockey tournament sanctioned by the NHL, and we can watch that. They can represent different cities and something similar, or something just to get us entertained for 2 weeks while you give these players off. But I think it's a gimmick. I think it's just something that you can't. Hockey, I think, was one of the greatest sports in the world by not dealing with any bullshit. Just doing their own thing, but it just seems like they're trying, and Bettman is trying to get them like the NBA and the NFL, and like what next? Do you want them to start beating their wives and doing drugs and getting caught with drugs in their car? Like, you want them to kind of decline like that, and kind of this in-season tournament kind of thing makes me feel that way. Like you said, yeah, I'll still watch it. I want to watch some hockey, and we'll talk about something that was controversy too, so I won't mention it, but I'm not sure if I want to root for the U.S. I'm not sure if I want to root for Canada. I'm leaning toward more Sweden or Finland, especially Sweden with Carlsson in it. I'd rather see him win something like that, especially with him scoring just one goal in 17 games. If he can go and have a good tournament and help his team win, I think that'd be beneficial to him as a player coming back to the Ducks.
Yeah, exactly. If he can pick it up and score, I agree it would help the Ducks. And you're right, the injury thing worries me too. And it's interesting you mentioned Bettman because I didn't really realize this, but yeah, he was the senior vice president and general counsel to the NBA before he came over to the NHL. I did not know that, so that's kind of interesting. I was just actually looking it up right now as you mentioned it because I was like, what? So, and you're right, he's kind of throwing that in there, and you're right, you can see some of the things that he's doing that are parallels to the NBA, which, you know, I'm not a fan of that. I mean, I'm not a fan of him anyways. I mean, I'm not the guy that's going to boo him like everybody else does.
I wouldn't boo him. I wouldn't boo him.
But speaking of booing, as you kind of alluded to, we had, I believe this started with Ottawa and Minnesota. Ottawa beat Minnesota 6-0 in Ottawa, and the fans were booing the U.S. national anthem during that game. And then apparently this has happened now at multiple games where people are booing the U.S. and the Canadian anthem different games throughout the league. And Elliot Freeman talked about this too in one of his 32 Thoughts recently and was upset about it. And I'm upset about it too because, as you guys know, Eddie served in the military and my father served in Vietnam, and 3 of my 4 grandparents served in World War II. I'm not trying to make this anything political, like one side or another or whatever. I don't want to get into that kind of stuff at all. I don't care. You're free to vote for whoever you want, and whichever party you want to line yourself with, that's cool. You do you. But I don't have a tolerance for this. Booing during the national anthem is BS completely. In any team, in any country, like, you shouldn't boo the Canadians booing the U.S. You guys are all a bunch of losers. But the people here that are booing the Canada one, you're losers too. Like, you just shouldn't. You shouldn't do that. If you don't like the people that are running the country or the way things are going, I get it. You want to protest and stuff like that, that's cool. But, you know, at sporting events, during the national anthem, this is where we're recognizing our countries and the stuff that they've been through. In the U.S. and Canada have been through wars and different things, and people have served and helped fought to preserve our freedom and your right to voice your opinion. And, I totally get it. You want to protest, you're not happy about stuff, 1,000% go for it. But that's just not the time and the place to do it. And that's the way I've been. Even when they had the stuff with the NFL, I was not happy. I stopped watching the NFL for a while until they stopped that nonsense. And that's just how I feel. If you want to protest in another way, you want to go stand on the street corner, cool. You want to go to your city council meeting, you want to email your senator or congressman or whoever, hey, go for it. For me, this is one of the non-negotiables for me, Eddie. I just don't have any tolerance for it. I don't have tolerance for kneeling, booing. I don't even like when I go to a game and people yell out their stupid things, like the Stars fans will yell out Stars when Stars is mentioned, right? And certain fans will mention, at certain words they'll yell during the anthem. I don't even like that. And I mean, if that means I'm old school and that's what I get labeled as, that's fine. I don't really care. I just think during the anthem, you be quiet, you let the person sing, and then afterwards you can cheer, clap, do whatever you want. If you want to boo after, I guess, but that's still not really good either. But while the songs are being sung and stuff, just be quiet and be respectful. So, and I'm kind of curious. I wonder if any of that will bleed over into this Four Nations thing. When they have these games, are there going to be people that will be booing either the Canadian or U.S. National anthem? It's very interesting, but a little controversy to kind of end the show on, and I'll let you kind of throw in your 2 cents, but I already know how you feel because you and I are super patriotic people, and we know our country's not perfect. It's not. No country's perfect, but I just think if you're going to protest the right way, and during a national anthem at any sporting event, to me is just not the place to do it.
I agree. And Mike, before I start getting into my rant, which I'm going to, I just want to disagree with you on one thing. I think Switzerland's perfect. They have beautiful women. They have beautiful landscape. And everything I've seen from that country is amazing. A little expensive, but that's what one of my travel destinations I'm going to do is visit Switzerland. I think that's a perfect country. And a lot of hockey players, too, that go on podcasts and talk about going and playing in Switzerland have always said the positive things about it. So that's one thing I'll say. But, Mike, I'll go ahead and throw our little F-bomb here for the show. I think Canadians and Americans are fucking pathetic. If you're booing each other's national anthem, you don't agree with any political climate or whatever you're going at it. I have my personal political views, which are to myself, and I don't care who's president. I respect the hell out of them. As a former military member, they're still my commander-in-chief, even though I might not agree with everything they do. Even though I don't like certain ones, which I won't go. It's not the place to talk about that. And I have the rule, the bar rule, no race, no religion, no politics. But that was just disheartening. I put my displeasure on X, which I was expecting more negativity from it. And I made sure, Mike, I excluded DucksNPucks from that opinion. That was just my personal opinion. But like, what the hell's the matter with you guys? You know how many friends I lost in the Army? People, either there were war or people that committed suicide because they had some issues from the war or accidents. I lost a lot of friends, or friends of friends. And that was just kind of like rubbing the wrong way. I know a lot of Canadian people that follow us that I met on X, that I have on Instagram and Facebook. They lost their family members too, serving in the Canadian Armed Forces. And there's other countries that have their military that they lost loved ones. And I don't care if you're talking about even Russian and North Korea, those dictators. Those people might not understand what they're doing and they're forced to do it, but they've lost their lives because they're fighting for their country. Like, they had pride in it. And I think that was the most disrespectful, distasting thing. And that's that's an NBA and NFL kind of action. I think that was the most disgusting thing I've seen from hockey. And I keep telling you, I'm getting pushed away more and more from hockey because of this kind of thing. Like, stick to sports. Like, it's none of your business. You shouldn't be booing. That's not right. Honestly, Mike, I don't know how I would react it if I was at a Ducks game and I've seen someone next to me booing when I heard my national anthem. Or if I was at a Ducks game and I heard someone that was American booing for the Canadian national anthem, I probably would have slapped them. And I don't care. I'll take the fine. I have a lawyer that can get me out of it. And it's it's, you know what? I think the most thing, Mike, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking that people are so lost and stupid, and they rather put everything in their life political than actually bettering themselves as a person in life. Like, if your whole thing is your political views and that's the only thing you have in life, no wonder why that you're broke and you can't do anything better. Because if you focus that energy and channel that to be a better person, love people, and just better yourself, and go places and talk to someone you disagree with, and you can just have a nice mutual conversation and shake hands after that. I think that's the most courageous thing you can do. But no, you want to boo because you boo, or because it's a trend. You want to follow basketball, which they booed first. I think that's the most absolutely pathetic thing you can do. And like, I'm just ashamed of I'm ashamed of Americans that did that. I'm ashamed of Canadians that did that. So it's not just pointing out one certain country. It's just, I think both of you guys are a piece of shits, and everyone that did that, you guys can go eat a bowl of dicks, because you guys are a piece of shits and don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, you said everything I said. I don't even need to add to that.
Man, I had to let it out.
Yeah, I mean that's how I felt too when I heard about the one with Ottawa and Minnesota. I was like, really, come on, guys. And then of course, one side starts it, the other side starts it, but it kind of goes into this theme that I live my life by, and I think we've talked about this on the show before too, and just kind of end the show on this. And if you have any more on, we can talk about it, but. The energy you put out is the energy that most likely you're going to get back, right? So if you live your life with this negative energy and you keep throwing it out there all the time, guess what's going to happen? You're pretty much going to get negative energy back. And you see a lot of this on social media. You see people that are going off about topics or people or whatever, and every day they're posting negative stuff about whoever. And I just laugh because I'm like, I mean, what kind of life are you living? Every day you're going to talk negative about some topic or some person. Like, don't you ever think that that's going to get old or anything? Plus, people don't want to hang out with other people that just complain about stuff all the time. So for me, I'm all about being positive and putting out positive energy and going that way. If you go that route, not always, but a lot of times you're going to get positive energy back. Of course, there's still negative things that are going to happen in life and whatnot. And yes, you can be critical and not saying you can't question things or debate things or whatever. That's not my point. But my point is that just the way you go about yourself in your daily life. And if you're always going to be a negative person, well, that dark rain cloud is always going to follow you. That's the way you want to live. I mean, that's you. But that's just not the way I like to act. And I rather take positive energy and keep going in that direction. And that's some of the things, that we do with our stuff too. A lot of it, I try not to dive into that stuff. Try to just post stuff about sports and, sometimes some of my little drinks that I have, or if I go on a nice little trip, I kind of keep it to that. I don't like the negativity that I've seen, even with a lot of people I know on Facebook have been getting crazy in the last 4 or 5 years. It just doesn't make sense to me. So, I hope with this Four Nations thing that it goes smooth, and there is none of that. That's my hope. And that's really all I got, Eddie, unless you got anything else, and then we'll close out the show.
Yeah, I just hope it's some good hockey, and I hope we have fun watching it, especially with the little breaks that we have from the Ducks. I hope everyone rejuvenates. Our players. I hope Leo Carlsson finds his game again going over there. And I just hope, most importantly, Mike, I hope the players have fun. I hope they have a good time, and the players that want to be there, they can just go and kind of play with different people, play with their fellow countrymen, and kind of gain that camaraderie with them. And just overall, I just really hope they have a good time. I hope they can. Honestly, I hope they're allowed to have some tall cans on the bench. They can just drink and have some fun. Do that, but I think it's the most important thing. And even though you're a professional athlete or anything you do, you have to have fun in doing that. And I know it's stressful what their job is. Fans booing, fans doing this, social media, but I hope they go and have a good tournament. I hope it works out for the NHL, and hope it's a good sample size of what we're going to see if they do allow the players back in the Olympics next year. So I guess the only thing I want to end on, Mike, is I was able to finally give you your Christmas present, and I want to throw this out too. It's like I gave you and your wife a Christmas present, which was long overdue, And your whole thing was like, I didn't do enough, or no, it was too much. But it's like,
Yes.
Mike, you do a lot. You and your wife, you guys are always there. You guys are always positive. I can call you any day, any time, any hour, and you'll be there. So I want to thank you, and just on a positive note, by thanking you as a friend, thanking people that I saw at the stadium, I was at Honda Center. Even the two new guys I met, they play football at San Diego State. And one was an Avs fan, and then one was a Dallas Stars fan, and they were just really cordial, really nice. I had some other women sitting across from us. They were their first hockey game ever, and they actually won a jersey. I don't know, like there was some contest going on, but we ended up sitting just to kind of space a seat next to us, so we weren't in our technical seats because we wanted to give kind of room if there's extra seats. So one of the ushers asked if that was our seat because they want a jersey. I said no, because obviously I have Integra. I'm not going to take something that's not mine. But when those three girls came back, I let them know, like, hey, you guys won something. You should talk to the usher. And they actually won a jersey, so it was good to see, especially their first ever NHL game. I was talking to them about the rules, so things like that, Mike. We had to, like, I know we had the issue of the booing, and it was kind of negative to kind of end the show, but there's a lot of positive people out there, people that are good people, and it's always good. I always say this, going to a hockey game is the funnest thing in the world. I just meet people, and I'm talking to everybody. My friend, that was her first time there, and she's like, dude, you know a lot of people. I was like, yeah, I met them throughout the years, and we just followed. Like, a couple people I talked to, too. I just met them off, it was Twitter at that time, and including our story, I told her I met you off Twitter, and she was just so amazed and surreal that I just met people, I guess random strangers, and she was just grateful and appreciative I took her to the game. And shout out to Pure Hockey too. I got some nice ice skates and some ice pants to start playing ice again, even though I started my team. But yeah, I want to end that on a positive note. I'm looking forward to going to a game again soon, Mike, with you, hopefully, and looking forward to seeing all of you guys high-fiving and talking some hockey.
Yeah, and I agree. End it on a positive note too. Like you think about this, started this thing what, like over a decade ago, and just starting it, you and I became friends through that, and like you said, how we pretty much are like family, unofficial brothers. And there's a lot of other good people out there too that I've met. I've made friends with Phil Hewlett with the Ducks, and even in Temu and other people that I've met. And I would say a majority of it has been good overall. A lot of it has been good. The majority of that. So that part, it is good. And most of the people that interact with at the Honda Center stuff, everything is great and fantastic. So, I just, we brought up that booing thing just because that was part of it. Now they're playing these games. So kind of curious to see how it plays out. Hopefully those few bad apples don't do it. And we know that most people out there obviously are good people. It's just the few that wreck it for the rest of us. So, but yeah, I appreciate your friendship and everything that we've done. We always have a good time. Yes, we got to go to a game again. Hopefully, I will get better. I hope the Ducks rest up too. It's been going around with them, and now even some of the broadcast staff too. So I'm hoping they all get better as well. And we'll be back in a couple weeks. Just a reminder too, we're also still part of the Old City Sports Network. I know Eddie mentioned Jesse earlier in the show. We still hang out and do stuff with them as well. Their sponsors are also listed in the description box below with their codes. Most of their codes are OCSN for discounts as well, so make sure to check them out. And with that, I'll sign off, and we'll be back in a couple weeks. And let's go Ducks!